Hello, everybody. Welcome again to another Kick-Ass Career Conversation. I am Kim, and I'm joined again by my lovely co-host,
Louise, that's me.
And our wonderful guest today is
Aly Cardinalli. Hi, everyone.
We're so glad to have you here, Aly. We are going to let the world know all about you in just a minute, but we want to start off this week how we start every week. Friends, what are we celebrating this week?
I love this question because I say it all the time. I was just having this conversation with a client this week about how we often just skip over all of this stuff, right? And we remember maybe the bad things that happened, but we forget all the good things, or we forget the things that we're focusing on and trying to change or trying to pay attention to. And that's really around confidence for me anyways. Confidence is data, and then taking the time to look back and see where I've moved the needle has been really cool. I've talked about improv before on the show because I'm taking a workshop and I'm stretching myself into that very, very scary zone place. I'm not even in the stretch zone. And then what's after that? The fear zone. Sometimes I'm like way out there with sweaty palms, and it's just a small little class. But I keep doing it, and I keep having fun, and I come back and remember what I did that I couldn't do before, where I laughed, and all of that support that I got from my group. And so I'm celebrating that. I'm celebrating continuing to step outside my comfort zone, but also that reflection piece too, I think is so important. And it's really helped me kind of remember where I was a year ago before I took it, what I was doing and how I've changed. So that's what I'm celebrating. It was all about me today.
Well, that moment is all about you.
Yes. I mean, this show isn't all about me. This show is going to be a fantastic conversation with Aly. But Aly, what are you celebrating? What's gone really well for you?
I'm celebrating genuine connections this week. Yeah. Just really connecting to my new family. Friends who've become more full and more just embracing than blood family. Just incredible, genuine connections. And then connecting really great with my daughter this week. And it's just, I'm celebrating genuine, fulfilling connections and not wasting any of my time on frivolous connections.
Wow, I felt that both ends of that. I felt the genuine connection part when you first started there, and the not spending time on frivolous connections. Ooh, totally felt that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to value your time and how you waste your energy. And I want to waste and spend on people who waste and spend either back to me or to other people, not just people who absorb. So I don't want to waste frivolous connections.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. I am celebrating something very, it feels surface, but saying it will feel surface, but it's so not. It is so deeply felt. I am celebrating warmth. It has been, so I moved to Montreal from Chicago. So neither of those warm places. Lived in Arizona for many years. So I know warmth and I keep moving further away from it. But this past week has been very warm to the point where our air conditioner broke and it was a little too warm for a woman of a certain age. But I have been able to get outside every morning and put my hands in the dirt, and I'm seeing my little plants flourish and grow, and I'm able to enjoy my morning cup of tea on the back porch or even breakfast if I have the time for it. But just warmth, because I get to be outside and I feel full being out there, right? I feel like my energy is so much more coming back online. And it just feels good. So I'm celebrating warmth, and I'm grateful for warmth that allows me to do that. So
I love that.
that's what I'm celebrating. Thank you. Aly, I would love to tell the world a little bit about you. Are you ready for this? Because nobody's ever ready to have their bio read back to them.
Ready.
Okay, here we go. All right. Aly Cardinalli is an experienced witch doctor, performing arts specialist, psychic, and master educator. Growing up in a family of traditional healers, he learned the art of healing, witchcraft, and spirituality. Despite pursuing a successful career in the performing arts, Aly never forgot his roots and continued to practice traditional healing techniques. He is highly regarded as a master educator and has conducted workshops and training sessions for various professionals. His dedication and expertise has inspired many to embrace culture and seek healing through art and ancient cultural practices. Ooh, you're speaking my language. So excited to have you here, Aly. Thank you so much.
I feel blessed to be here and be able to talk to you both. I'm very excited. So thank you for having me.
You're very welcome.
Aly, what do you love about what you do?
Although a lot of what I do is taboo, I love that in the end, this is gonna sound just so stereotypical, but I love that I get to help people. At the end of the day, I get to help an awful lot of people end suffering and dis-ease. And that's what I love about my work.
Is that a new space for you, or is that something that you kind of have carried throughout your career?
As an educator, I've always carried that because I feel when people are learning, they get to discover not just something else, which is how we grow and how we stretch ourselves, but they get to discover where they want to go. And that also has healing. So yeah, I feel the call to connect with people to end dis-ease.
And the universe chimed on that for you.
It did chime.
So today's conversation is around this idea of following your calling. And you were just talking about being called. So I wonder if you want to share the story of kind of how this has unfolded, how you got to where you are and what you're creating into the world today.
Perfect.
There's the chime again.
There's the chime again. Okay, so I was born a psychic, but with that, as most teens do, early teens, like 12, 13, you start to lose a lot of that and you are gaslit by society or by family that you just have an overactive imagination, which is very, very, very common. And I found, to jump ahead, I found with a lot of students that they all have the same parallel in story, that usually when we get to our 40s and 50s, we look back and go, wait a minute, was that actually make-believe, or was that my reality? So unfortunately, jumping ahead 7 years, I went through a violent near-death experience, and that broke whatever filter I had grown as a teen with the veil. It broke it off and brought back everything that I had as a child. With that aspect, I've always been rooted in indigenous cultures. My father being from Sicily, my mother being from Germany, and being raised in Hawaii, I was surrounded and very blessed to be surrounded by old, ancient ways of living and connecting to the world around me. At the same time, becoming a dancer and an actor and a singer. I was afraid to follow the old path. So, like my grandmother did before me, I learned from her secretly. I practiced secretly. People knew of my very secret private practice and would come to me, but my public life, very public life, was in the performing arts. And I was frankly afraid of being ostracized by taking my gifts public. I didn't want to be a laughingstock, so I kept it very, very private while I had my performing arts career. And it wasn't until the pandemic where I was forced and shoved to follow these old ways. I was the dean of a performing arts school, and the school had to shut down completely. It did not reopen. And at the same time, I was offered a job to teach ancient witchcraft. And I was like, well, I guess this is where I'm going. And I opened my private practice publicly, and everything has just blossomed since. I'm following the right road now. I still get to touch the performing arts, but it's now a touch instead of an investment.
Yeah. What was it like getting to that place of, you said you were pushed and shoved, right? At that point, it was like, okay, here I am. What was that like for you to, on one hand, know that this is who you are, right? This is absolutely, this is not just part of your identity, but it is part of your soul, right? This is who you are. And on the other hand, there's that fear, right? Whether it's through spirituality, through witchcraft, through psychic abilities, through who we are with different parts of our identity, many of us keep ourselves cloaked. And here
Yes.
you were being pushed into a place of you don't get to stand behind the cloak anymore. What was that like for you?
Horrifying
Mm.
and and uncomfortable and just genuinely uneasy. My identity had been my performing arts career. I have directed and choreographed and musical directed 136 productions. I mean, my life was a breadth of art. And for that to shift into that is not who you are anymore. It's not who you've been. That's just what you've done. And to have that realization is it's like being in a shell and coming out of it and going, I feel so naked. It was hard. The push and the encouragement genuinely came from my youngest daughter. And of course, in a home, it can't be easy living in a home with a psychic dad. So
Fair.
like that's not easy. It's not had an easy childhood. But I was worried about. She also was going into the performing arts, and I was worried about her career. And if I do succeed, which I'm doing well in this fantastically taboo job, what if it hurts her or hurts other family? Like, oh, you that kook, I was genuinely worried. But their encouragement, my family's encouragement, especially hers, was this hard push of any naysayers, let them prove you wrong. And we're here to support you.
Mhm.
You need to do this. So I'm grateful every day for that encouragement. Although, we shouldn't seek encouragement from our children, but sometimes that's where it comes from, is the less fear and less knowledge, and all of that kind of gets in our way sometimes.
Yeah, it's amazing where we get that connection from, right? Or that pull that can pull us from that really scary place into knowing that, like, it could be okay, right? Like, we don't need to know it's going to be absolutely 100% okay, but when we're kind of like, you talked about being like so naked and bare, when we get to a place where it's like, oh, but wait a minute, like, it actually might be okay, and to know that those closest to you are like, yeah, like, I think it's going to be okay. really can support us through a pivot, through transition like that, into something that is so scary and unknown.
Yes. And it was good to have a family that, um, even behind closed doors, the big, scary, and unknown pieces they were comfortable with so that we could move together and I didn't feel isolated, which is so funny because in the performing arts, you're so very isolated.
Mhm.
But I wasn't alone in having the support. And what I found was that shell that made me feel comfortable was actually just weight and
Mhm.
holding me slowly moving through life instead of this trajectory that feels like I'm just on a breeze, just on wind, and it's just light
Mhm.
and it's effortless, which when you follow your path, it really should be effortless.
Yeah. Well, and it's not lost on me that when we talked about our celebrations at the beginning, right? You had talked about genuine connection, this really deep, genuine connection. And Louise, you talked about the sweaty palms and moving through it. And we're talking about that same thing. We're talking about having that support when we're following our calling, right? That's what we're talking about today. When we're following that, having that support, having that genuine support wherever it comes from, and working through the sweaty palms. So it's both of those things that you're both celebrating today that we're actually talking about. That just wasn't lost on me. So
Yeah, it's a hard thing to follow your calling, especially when it's non-traditional. But even when it's not, it can feel very very scary to trust in yourself, right? And trust that you have this like this deep, deep knowing that you have something that needs to be like brought out into the world, and be able to do that. Kim, when you were talking, I was reminded just how at improv, how it's so interesting because I don't really know these folks at all. We come together for a workshop, we've never met before, and immediately you're put into a situation where you have to trust them, right? You have to trust that they have your back. That if you're going to, right, for a moment too long, pause or freak out, or I get lost in my head all the time, and there's someone always there that has my back, that comes and swoops in and takes it to a place where I could never even imagine. And then I get to do the same, right? And then I get to be the one that can come in and save and have someone else's back. And it's just this beautiful dance. And it is still so scary every time to step up on that stage. Um, I don't know. It gets a tiny bit easier as you build those relationships and you start to trust in yourself. But it's still, for me anyways, like there's no way that is anywhere in my comfort zone currently. Yet I
Mm,
get to do it every week.
yeah. Well, and we do it every day as entrepreneurs,
Yes.
right? It any entrepreneur that you talk to that is not in my mind completely um egotistical and narcissistic will tell you that we get in our heads all the time, that it's hard. It's hard to trust ourselves and trust the path that we're building for ourselves. I know that even as an organizational leader, right? It's hard to trust yourself, and yet we're expected to. So I think it's that it's there's a little bit of human nature there, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. There's a little bit of human nature of this, like we're expected as adults. Now we're talking just about adulting. Like like to trust ourselves. Oh, here, parenting. Here's a baby. Take it home. Good luck.
Well, and what's interesting is in the old ways, if we look at indigenous culture,
Yeah.
we were not expected to do things like that alone and just trust alone. We were meant to live in a life of an improvised tribe of trust, where if you are hands up, I don't know what to do, someone just steps in. And that includes even with raising a child. Like if your hands are full and someone will just swoop in and take the child and help, they just help. To have that trust and to have that lifestyle is so incredible and so valuable. In Hawaii, we still have some of that in everyday life, but even now it's disappearing. And it makes me sad that these parts we can only access in a controlled room like improv or like the performing arts, where you have that trust that, and with dance partners, like you were talking about, Louise, with dance partners, if there's something wrong, you just help each other, you just fix it, you just are there for each other and support and connect and move forward and make each other look good. What would this world be like if we took that and spread it like delicious melted butter across this planet?
Mm. It'd be amazing. I mean, and I think that's where there's so many of us. I talk a lot about shifting paradigms, right? And moving from what's been happening for the last 300 to 400 years, this focus on growing institutions, to a shift back into the focus on the individual and individual within community. And how are we supporting each other to look good, right? And it's not just to look good so that we are accepted. It's so that we feel good. Like when we feel good, we look good. I think let's just go there. When we feel good, we look good. And it's that we know somebody has our back. We know we're not on our own. We know that we belong. Like all of these things that we crave as human beings that have been shut down for so long because we've been so focused on creating the institutions and making them look good.
Right.
Right. So as humanity, how do we navigate this as we're all being offered an opportunity to follow our calling? How do we navigate this time?
In my practice, I go back to every client as kind of a seed. And as a seed, how do you want to build your ecosystem of protection and thriving? And if that means that you have to cut out, whether it's business, whether it's family, whether it's health, if you have to cut out the invasive species that are taking your nutrients, then cut them out and instead plant a tree that gives you shade, plant the beautiful flowers that remind you of humanity, remind you of yourself. Plant a new garden and be aggressive in cutting everything else out. And even with business people, I have the same advice of cut them out. They will fail or thrive and it's none of your business. Build your own ecosystem where you feel good about what you do and you have that support, like we were talking about earlier, that support that people feed you while you feed your business and you feed them. An ecosystem.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting? There we go. The plants that I was celebrating earlier just came into the conversation. Isn't that fun?
We use a lot of allegory in Witchdoctor, a lot of storytelling and allegory and comparative in order to help drive a piece home. And so I have a tendency to talk in metaphor.
Beautiful. We love metaphor in here, up in this place here. I don't know what those words were, but we get the point, Kim. I'm going to just derail us just for a second because my guess is people who are listening, the vast majority have no idea what a witch doctor actually does. Would you be willing to share?
I would love to. A lot of people don't know what a witch doctor is. Some people will jump in and go, what's the difference between that and just being a witch? I go, well, we have to do a lot more things. So as a witch doctor, you have to, of course, have a vast knowledge in witchcraft. We didn't call it magic growing up. We didn't call it sorcery. We just called it the craft. We weren't actually allowed to use the word witch. It was just the craft. Yeah, there was a major secrecy and just being careful. So you have the craft. You do have to be a psychic. I am what's called a dark medium. That's the kind of psychic I am. You do have to be an exorcist, which means that you would remove spirits. You don't have to do the aggression that we see on TV, but you do have to be able to remove spirits or mediate for spirits on their behalf, which is a different point of view than the colonized point of view. We work on their behalf because they can't always talk for themselves. We need to find out what they need and get them to safety and remove them. So it's a lot more peaceful way of dealing with spirit issues. We also have to be spiritual counselors. So we have to have a knowledge in psychiatric and therapeutic techniques. We also have to be a healer of some kind. And we have to be teachers and ministers on behalf of priests. So there's lots of areas, with the last being storytellers, whether that's musicians or painters or actors or directors or dancers. You have to also be able to convey story, because that's what threads everything together. So a witch doctor has to be able to do an awful lot of things and juggle a lot of hats. But that's how it was done. If we look back, is you would get healing and care and advice from the other world. And late at night, you'd also be reminded of your own humanity through story.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, because I think there's still so much taboo around the spiritual world, right? There's so much taboo. Why do you think that is? I mean, I have my opinions, but I'd love to know yours. I mean, how much time do we have? But
I'm going to say the reason there's fear is it's taught in order to control. Spirituality, whether it's connecting with witchcraft or connecting to spirit, if we go again back in time before brutality, it was accessible to everyone, and it still is accessible to everyone. The difference is we want to control that accessibility, because not we, certain people, I like to call them the brutes, want to control that, because why allow people to have power, their own agency, which may challenge the agency of the brute. So we create fear, and we create these made up rules and bastardize religious contacts like karma, and use that as a weapon instead of what it actually is in Buddhist tradition. So the churches, or the organized religions, as a business, are using it to control and monopolize the business of people. That's why there's so much taboo.
yeah. Want to bring us back, because what you said is so very important, and want to bring us back to this idea of following your calling. And following your calling, when and Louise, I know you touched on this earlier, when it's something that's taboo and when it's not. Because even those areas that are not taboo, we still see these systems at play.
Yes.
And it becomes very hard. And in one of my amazing clients that I work with, she's a middle-aged woman. She's had lots of access to a lot of different opportunities in her life. She's white. That does play in this, right? Because our access is different. And she, in her mid-50s, is saying, I never really had a choice of what I could do, because the systems didn't let me. How can I do this differently? So I'd love to kind of, now that we open that up just a little bit, go into that place of following our calling when so many things feel stacked against us.
I'm mixed race, but I'm white presenting. And because of that, one of my biggest struggles in embracing my calling is the systems that fight against me from both sides. I'm too white to be black, and I'm too black to be white. And from both sides, I sit in an unfortunate pool that I try to waterfall out of ridicule because I don't fit. The system is not set up for someone like me to sit in it. I'm also not an old person with bones in my nose, right? Like I don't fit the stereotype. I look like me. With that, how I stepped in is I heard RuPaul say, if they don't pay your bills, pay them no mind. And don't read the comments. Those two things, it really is the most valuable because those people are trolls and they're sucking your life and they are not genuine connections. Move forward. All they do is they are the reason we get sweaty palms because they're the ones who are afraid of judging us. If they don't exist, we wouldn't be afraid to make failure. Make them not exist. Ignore them. We do have it now. Move forward. Take the reins. Control your own life. Ignore all the bumps in the road.
Louise, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's a saying that came up for me, Aly, when you were talking about removing the bumps in the road, and we try to go so fast to get through the bumps. And I think when we slow down, that's really creating this smooth, right? Like, yeah, it's not ignoring what's there. It's like being in choice to say like, those aren't those bumps in my road, right? Because I think as we go through our lives and we get to this place of whatever elder age, whatever that is, that we've been going so fast. We've been driving someone else's car. We've been like just carrying all of these things. And then when we look, we go, holy crap, like, man, it's bumpy. Man, I can't find myself. I don't know who I am, right? And all of these things. And it's like, yeah, you do, right? Yeah, you do know self. Yes, you do know what to do. And it's that choice of not letting those bumps slow you down, instead of like just kind of bumping along the top of them. So I love that because we get tied up in those bumps. We think that's who we are. Right, with all of those roles that we play, right? Spouse, parent, right? Our roles, our careers, our right, daughter, son, child, all of those things, and that's not really who we are. Those are just things. It's not who. That doesn't define us. But that's what came up for me when you were talking. It's like, yeah, like we're in control of what's bumpy and what's not. Kim,
Drive your own damn car.
Well, Kim, you talk so
Drive your
much,
own damn car,
right? Kim, you talk so much about agency, right? And that we are all in choice about how we like what car we drive, how we drive it, how clean it is, like right, like how we maintain it. Like we are all in choice, and yet we can say, right, my car's broken down or it's dirty, right? We get stuck in that.
Yeah. Well, and so I talk a lot about this idea of self-mastery, right? And so having the ability to know that it's your car, right? That you get to pick its finishing. You get to pick, does it have air conditioning? Does it not? Does it have, crank windows or electric? Does it have a stereo or a CD? Like what's in there? What's in your car? What color is it? How many colors is it? Does it have stickers on it? Whatever. But I'm now imagining my own damn car. So, but you get to do that. That is self-mastery. The other part of self-mastery is knowing that you can choose to drive in the opposite direction that everybody else is driving. You can choose to do that. How can you do that without derailing yourself or other people?
Or a horse and carriage.
Or a horse and carriage, 100%. Yeah.
It's like, this is not the path of anyone else. And when I put it on my IRS form, are they going to go, you do what? But it's
Yeah. Oh, I want to be one of those reviewers.
That's okay. It's okay. And again, like you both talked about, if it's what fits, if it's what fits in your hands and it feels effortless, then that is right. Not worrying about the choice of finish because someone else may want you to have, or because society tells you to have, then it doesn't fit. It doesn't feel right. Yeah, okay, you're doing it, but it doesn't feel right. And that's where we need to put blinders on to the societal standards, dig deep into what we are as a seed, and don't try to be a rose if we're an iris. They're both beautiful.
100%. 100%. They are both beautiful. We're all beautiful, even if we're a hybrid, right? Because we think about that too. We create new hybrids all the time.
Yeah.
I believe I have a strawberry tomato plant in the backyard. I don't know what's going to come of it. We'll see, but they're both coming up in the same place. Not sure. Could be fun. They're both, whatever. They're both delicious. So I did just look at the time. I want to make sure that we have some time to share what our takeaways are, so we can just kind of boil this down for our listeners and really help them hone in on just those little nuggets, those little golden nuggets of wisdom that we each are going to be taking away, but we also want our listeners to take away. What are those golden nuggets for us today?
My nugget actually has to do with sweaty palms. So even though I've been performing arts for 25 years, I still get terrible stage fright. And Louise, you talking about sweaty palms and how everybody's there for you. In improv, I thought the next time that I have that anxiety in everyday life, to trust that someone's going to be there to have my back. I've already built my support system to trust. That is my takeaway. So thank you for that.
I love that. Whew. Aly, you use the word ecology, right? And how we build our environment, how we get to plant the tree that can provide for us and others, and that we are master gardeners, really, at the end of the day. And I just love that. I love that word, ecology. It's not just about the environment, right? It's about a harmony where things are all working together towards the same goal at the end of the day. And there's an ease in that, and to just lean into that. So thank you for that word. It's going to stick with me. I love that.
You stole mine, but that's okay. I have another one. She does it all the time. No worries. So mine is, right, honor your horse of a different color. Whether it is a horse and carriage or it has horsepower, whatever decision you make, honor your horse of a different color. That's my golden nugget.
I'm
I'll
writing
keep
it
it short and sweet. There you go. You may use it. Oh, Aly, this has been wonderful, wonderful talking with you today. Where can people find you in the world if they want to learn more about the work that you do, if they're curious about witchdoctory? I don't even know if that's a word. And okay, cool. All of the things.
The best way to find me is through my academy, Bear Bridge Academy, and bear like R, not bear like ah.
For those of you who aren't watching the video and just doing audio, you missed a really adorable thing that just happened.
Hopefully in audio, they also got it, right?
Yeah.
So bearbridgeacademy.com, that is the academy that I founded We teach witchcraft from tons of different traditions. We are not associated with any tradition individually, so we are accessible and culturally competent for any practitioner. Doesn't matter what your religion is, including, and I want to say, including people who are Christian. If you are still interested in your spiritual discovery, we offer metaphysics, the occult, psychic development, mysticism, shamanic practices, and you can pick and choose in a very safe environment to approach your spirituality from your point of view. And you can find out more about me through there. There's links to find my website and my private practice. So that's the best place to go, is bearbridgeacademy.com.
Beautiful. I might just have to check it out myself. Louise, what do we have going on in the world?
We have all kinds of things going on in the world, including being live here every week for many, many weeks now, and we will continue doing so next week. How Leaders Heal with Tanya. Same bat channel, same bat phone number.
Same bat time, same bat channel. Come on.
Yeah, that thing. So come and join us. If you can't join us live, please find us on all of the places that you would listen to podcasts. And you can also check out our YouTube channel. We can be found at Your Kick-Ass Career on YouTube, and check us out on our website at yourkickasscareer.com and see what we have coming up. That was a little teaser?
That was you just keep teasing that. Like, it's fun. What's coming is fun.
I know.
Just make it sound
But we can't talk about it because we only know, like, we don't know, we don't know
right.
enough
So so here's the truth. We are following our own calling, and we will let you know more about what that calling is in upcoming episodes. That's all we can tell right now, because it's growing, it's developing. So we are, thank you, Aly, so much for having this conversation with us, for talking about your calling, your passion, how it has unfolded for you in this beautiful, beautiful way. And I'm excited to see where you grow from here.
Thank you so much for having me and for letting me touch and connect genuinely with your listeners. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in this week. We'll see you real soon.
Okay. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.